PowerOLAP formulas. A PowerOLAP formula is a complex algorithmic calculation which allows you to perform mathematical and other operations on values within a PowerOLAP cube. Much like Excel, the language for developing formulas is sophisticated in terms of the feature set and what you're able to do. Formulas themselves live within a cube. A value within a cube can be calculated, any value within a cube can be calculated using a formula. Formulas can also be used to reference values from other cubes. So cube A can have a formula that uses values from cube B to calculate values in cube A, much like Excel can have references in A cell that reference other sheets to calculate their values. PowerOLAP uses much of the same syntax as Excel. So many Excel users who are familiar with the syntax of the Excel function language will be familiar with the formula language in PowerOLAP. To those people who really want to understand why we do things, really think about what you do in Excel and how Excel is used and how valuable formulas in Excel really are in terms of developing, building, and distributing sheets with valid information. Much of the emphasis of PowerOLAP is to actually move your formulas from your Excel spreadsheets into PowerOLAP, thus doing all your calculations in a single place and not having to reproduce or recreate all your calculations in all your different spreadsheets. In this demo, I will be developing a calculated value within PowerOLAP. I currently have the database using PO, which is a sample database that comes with PowerOLAP open in the PowerOLAP designer. If we look at the accounts dimension within this sample, we can see that there is a hierarchy called gross profit. Gross profit is calculated by taking the sales and subtracting the cost of sales. This can be seen as a -1 weight in the aggregation hierarchy to calculate gross profit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove gross profit from the hierarchy, and I'm going to calculate gross profit through a formula instead of through an aggregation. Before I do that, I will create a slice on the future year model, move my accounts to my rows, move my months to page, and as you can see, my gross profit excuse me, is the difference between my sales and my cost of sales. I'm now going to go back into the dimension, remove my hierarchy simply by hitting delete, hitting OK, hitting OK, and when the sheet recalculates, you can see this value is now 0. We're going to replicate that functionality using a formula instead of a hierarchy. To do this, I'm going to go into the cube, select the cube that I want my calculation to exist in, which is future year model, hit formulas, and now build a formula that calculates gross profit. A standard formula consists of two parts, a left-hand side and a right-hand side. Much like Excel, the left-hand side of a formula represents the cell or the element that you're trying to calculate. The right-hand side of the formula calculates what you're trying to calculate into that cell. So the first thing I'll do is define my cell or my left-hand side by clicking the squiggly brackets. What I want to do is calculate a value for gross profit. So I'll select gross profit, hit OK, and there's my left-hand side. My right-hand side now, the left-hand side is separated from the right-hand side with an equal sign. Now that I've defined my left-hand side, I need to select my right-hand side. By selecting the square brackets, I can define the right-hand side of my formula. As you can see, there is a cube selection at the top of this dialog. I can determine whether I want the value to come from my current year model or my future year model. Therefore, I can tell the future year model to be calculated by something based on the current year model. In this example, we're going to stay within the same cube. So I will pick future year model, select my accounts dimension, select sales, hit OK. Now to calculate the value correctly, I'll simply put it on the next line so that we can see more of the formula. I now have sales minus, once again, click the square brackets, select the future year model for the cube that I want to calculate from, select accounts, and select cost of sales. Every formula is ended with a semicolon. Now you can see my formula is accounts.gross profit is equal to my current year model sales minus my cost of sales. Select check syntax to validate that the syntax is correct of each formula. Hit OK. Hit OK to this dialog. Hit OK to the cube dialog. Recalculate my sheet. And as you can see, we have the same value we had before. Using a formula for this particular instance is an alternate strategy for using a weight within a hierarchy. There's a lot of examples, however, where you cannot do you cannot perform such a calculation in a weight. Complex formulas that may include mathematical algorithmic calculations or particular references to other cubes cannot easily be done through a weight in a hierarchy. This is a simple example of how you can write a formula.